Imagine walking into a luxury spa, expecting peace and calm, only to be humiliated and thrown out for wearing a simple dress. But what the staff never imagined was that the woman they mocked was no ordinary guest when her billionaire husband walked in. The golden walls shook with a truth that silenced everyone. The spa they guarded with arrogance belonged to the very woman they had insulted. What happened next turned shame into fear, and luxury into judgment. Stay tuned, because this story will leave you questioning, what does true power really look like? The perfume of lavender drifted through the air. Soft harp music played in the background. The marble floor shone under golden lights. Guests in silk robes whispered, their voices like velvet, but among them stood Clara, wearing a plain cotton dress. Her sandals tapped awkwardly against the polished stone. She clutched her small handbag close to her chest, eyes turned toward her with disdain. The receptionist's smile stiffened, then vanished. Madam, this place is private. Members only. Her voice was sweet, yet sharp as glass, Clara tried to explain, her voice trembling. I am here to meet someone. But the receptionist's hand lifted firm. Dismissive, two attendants in immaculate uniforms stepped forward. Their eyes avoided hers, but their grip was cold. The silk of their gloves brushed against her arm. They ushered her toward the glass doors. The world outside was bright, harsh, unwelcoming. Heat pressed against her skin as the door opened. Guests inside chuckled softly, their laughter like poison. Clara's cheeks burned, shame prickling like fire. The marble, the gold, the fragrance, all mocked her. Her heart pounded louder than the harp music. Just as the attendants reached for the final push, a shadow fell across the entrance. A man's voice cut through the air, deep and commanding. What exactly are you doing with my wife? The attendants froze, their hands tightening, then loosening. Whispers rippled through the spa like a rising storm. Clara turned, her breath catching in her throat. There stood Ethan, tall, composed. Every gaze fixed on him, the billionaire whose name carried power and fear. The receptionist's face drained of color, her lips quivered. Yet no words came out. The guests straightened, robes rustling nervously. The golden silence of the spa shattered into unease. Ethan's eyes, cold as steel, swept across the room. Every person lowered their gaze, unable to meet his stare. He stepped closer, the echo of his shoes striking the marble. Clara's heart thudded, her shame replaced with a trembling relief. He slid his arm around her shoulders, protective and firm. My wife does not need your approval to be here, he said. The receptionist's voice cracked as she stammered, Sir, we had no idea. Ethan's gaze sharpened, his tone sharper still. You threw her out of her own spa. Gasps spread like fire. Through the crowd, the receptionist swayed, her knees nearly giving way. Even the harp music faltered as the musician's fingers froze. Clara blinked, stunned, her breath shallow. Her spa, her sanctuary, the golden walls that mocked her a moment ago now seemed to bow. All eyes darted between Clara and Ethan, disbelief etched on every face. The attendants released their grip entirely, stepping back as if scorched. The silence was no longer velvet. It was sharp, heavy, unbearable. Ethan's voice rolled through the silence like thunder. This spa, every wall, every stone, every drop of fragrance, belongs to her. Gasps rose again, sharper, louder. The guests shifted uneasily in their robes, their luxury suddenly fragile. Clara's fingers trembled against the strap of her bag, the shame that burned moments ago now twisted into something else power her. Eyes swept across the faces that mocked her. The whispers that once pierced her pride now dissolved into fear. The receptionist's hands shook as she fumbled with her clipboard. Mrs. Gray, we never meant. Ethan stepped forward, his shadow swallowing her. You meant every word, he said, his tone flat, final. The golden lights above seemed harsher now, exposing every crack in their false smiles. Clara's breath slowed, steady, her voice finally breaking through the heavy air. Perhaps this spa has forgotten who truly walks these halls. Her words dropped like stones into still water. Every head turned toward her. Waiting, bracing. Clara lifted her chin, the cotton of her simple dress brushing softly against her skin. Her voice carried, clear against the trembling silence. I built this place for peace, for healing, for dignity. She stepped forward, her sandals echoing as loud as thunder. Not for arrogance, not for cruelty. The guests shifted, robes rustling like restless wings. The receptionist's eyes darted, searching for escape, but Ethan's presence pinned her in place. Unmoved, Clara let her hand trail across the cool marble counter. The same marble she had chosen years ago. The fragrance of lavender no longer mocked her. It wrapped around her like armor. She turned, her gaze sweeping over the glittering crowd. Today, you showed me what this spa has become. Her words dripped with ice, yet burned through the silence. No one dared to breathe too loudly. The weight of her presence pressed against every corner of the golden room. Clara's eyes locked on the receptionist. Unblinking, you judged me for my dress, for my silence, for not fitting into your glass world. Her voice deepened, each word striking like a hammer. But you forgot one thing. She paused, the stillness stretching, taut as wire. This spa exists because of me. Without me, none of you would be here. A murmur rippled through the guests, shame thick in the air. The attendants lowered their heads, their pristine gloves suddenly meaningless. The receptionist swallowed hard, her face pale as the marble beneath her feet. Ethan's arm tightened gently around Clara, his pride radiating like fire. The golden chandeliers above flickered. As if bending to her words, Clara straightened, her breath calm, her eyes sharp as glass, forgetting that truth is the greatest insult of all. A heavy silence pressed down, thick and suffocating. Every guest froze, their luxury robes clutched tighter, as if fabric could shield them. Clara's gaze swept across their faces, each one paling under her steady eyes. The air carried the faint sound of water trickling from the spa's fountain, but even that seemed hushed. Reverent, afraid. The receptionist's lips parted, then closed again, words dying on her tongue. Her clipboard trembled in her hands, the papers rattling like brittle leaves. Ethan's stare remained fixed, cold, and unyielding. A silent blade beside Clara's fire, a single candle on the counter flickered, its flame bending low. Clara took one more step forward, her sandals striking like judgment. You may polish marble and drape gold, she said, but rot shows itself when respect is gone. Her words cut sharper than the air conditioned. Chill, no one dared to look away. Trapped in the weight of truth, Clara let the silence linger, stretching like a blade across the room. The harpist lowered his hands, strings quivering in unfinished notes. Guests shifted uncomfortably, their jeweled fingers fidgeting against silk belts. The receptionist's breath came shallow, her painted smile shattered. Clara's voice rose again, smooth yet unrelenting. Luxury without kindness is nothing but vanity. Her words echoed, ricocheting off the marble walls. The fountain's trickle seemed louder now, steady, accusing. Ethan's eyes swept the room, pinning each guest in place. Remember this moment, he said, his tone like thunder beneath calm skies, because she will decide what becomes of this spa. All color drained from the receptionist's face. The attendants took another step back, as if fearing invisible fire. Clara's chest lifted with a deep, steady breath. The same halls that humiliated her now trembled at her presence. Clara's fingers brushed the edge of the counter, slow and deliberate. The smooth marble was cold against her skin, yet it grounded her, She lifted her gaze, eyes steady, voice unwavering. This place was meant to welcome every soul who entered. Her words rang clear, slicing through the thick silence. Not to measure worth by fabric or jewels. The guests shifted again, shame settling over them like a heavy cloak. The receptionist's masquerade eyes brimmed with fear, her body stiff as stone. Ethan stood tall beside Clara, his presence an unspoken warning. A hush fell so deep that even the fountain seemed to hold its breath. Clara's lips curved, not into a smile, but into resolve. I will cleanse this spa of arrogance. Her voice struck like lightning across the golden hall. Every guest flinched, as if the very walls absorbed her command. The chandeliers overhead glimmered, their light casting sharp reflections across the polished marble. Clara's shadow stretched long and unyielding, merging with Ethan's at her side. No one dared to move. No one dared to breathe too loudly. Her words hung in the air like a sentence waiting to fall. The receptionist's knees trembled, the clipboard slipping from her hands, papers scattered across the floor, fluttering like broken wings. Clara did not glance down. Her gaze stayed fixed, commanding, unbreakable. This spa will no longer hide behind false smiles. Her tone was calm, yet it cut deeper than a shout. Respect is the only currency that will ever matter here. The guests bowed their heads, as if the weight of her decree pressed them into the marble. Ethan's hand rested gently at her back, steady and certain. The golden silence that followed was no longer mocking. It was reverent. It was fearful. Clara let the silence sink deeper, filling every corner of the grand hall. The lavender scent that once suffocated her now seemed to rise in her favor, sweet and strong. Her eyes glimmered with a quiet fire, one the crowd could not escape. The receptionist finally sank into a shallow bow, her voice breaking. Forgive me, Mrs. Gray. I failed you. Clara's expression remained unreadable, her stillness heavier than anger. Your failure was not to me, she said softly, yet each word struck like stone. It was to the very soul of this place. A murmur rippled through the guests, shame clinging to them like smoke. The attendants lowered their heads further, their pristine gloves trembling against their sides. Ethan's gaze never wavered, sharp and unyielding, ensuring no one dared interrupt. Clara took a slow breath, her chest rising with strength rather than shame. This spa will change, she declared, her voice resonant, final. The walls seemed to carry her words, as if etched into the gold itself. The guests shifted uneasily, their jeweled bracelets clinking like faint chains. No one spoke, no one dared to meet Clara's eyes. The fountain's steady trickle sounded louder, as if marking her decree in time. Clara stepped away from the counter, her sandals echoing against the marble. Each step carried authority that no robe or jewel could imitate. She paused in the center of the hall, her gaze sweeping across every bowed head. This spa will no longer be a palace of pride, she said. It will return to what it was meant to be, a refuge, a place where even the simplest soul is honored. Her words seemed to wrap the room in fire and ice all at once. The receptionist's breath hitched, her painted nails digging into her palms. Ethan stood silent, letting Clara's voice command the air. Every wall, every golden light, seemed to bend beneath her resolve. Clara's chin lifted higher, her presence filling the gilded hall like a storm. The guests clutched their robes tighter, their eyes lowered in shame. The faint perfume of jasmine and lavender hung heavy, no longer soothing, but sharp as judgment. She let the silence linger until it throbbed in their ears. Then her voice broke through, calm yet absolute. Those who mocked, those who scorned, have revealed themselves today. Her words cracked like thunder against stone. There is no place for arrogance in a sanctuary built for peace. The receptionist's shoulders caved inward, trembling under the weight of the truth. The attendants exchanged nervous glances, their pride stripped away with a single sentence. Ethan's stance beside her was silent, immovable, the embodiment of strength. The golden chandeliers flickered, as if the very light bent to her will. Clara's eyes burned with a steady flame as she declared, "This spa will remember its heart, because I will make it so." Asterisk, the words seemed to vibrate through the marble floor, deep and unshakable. Guests shifted in uneasy silence, their luxury robes no longer a shield but a burden. The sound of water trickling from the fountain filled the pause, steady, relentless. Clara let her gaze linger on each face, forcing them to feel the weight of her presence. Some avoided her eyes, others flushed with shame. None dared to speak. The receptionist's painted lips parted, as if to reply, but no voice came. Her clipboard lay forgotten on the ground. Papers scattered like fallen pride. Clara took a single step closer, her sandals sharp against the polished floor. "You forgot compassion," she said, her voice even, almost gentle. "But compassion is what gives this place its soul." Her words cut through the silence like glass breaking. Ethan's hand brushed her shoulder, steadying, a quiet gesture of solidarity. The golden chandeliers glowed brighter above. As if bearing witness, every corner of the hall seemed to lean into her words, waiting for what would come next. Clara stood tall, her breath slow and deliberate, her presence unshaken. The soft ripple of the fountain echoed like applause in the silence. She let her hand rest lightly on the counter, her touch steady, her resolve firm. "This spa was never built for status," she said. "It was built for sanctuary." Her words rolled like waves, pulling the room into stillness. A jeweled guest shifted, the clink of her bracelet sounding louder than thunder. Clara's eyes caught hers, holding until the woman looked away. "Every person who enters here will be treated with honor," Clara continued, "whether they wear silk or cotton, whether they arrive in gold or in dust." The receptionist's breath shuddered, her face pale, her pride shattered. The attendants bowed their heads lower, fear etched into their posture. Ethan's silence beside her was not absence, but power itself. The golden air of the hall quivered, as if bending to her decree. Clara's next words carried like stone across water, "And if anyone doubts it, let this day be their reminder." Asterisk, the words rang out, striking the walls until they seemed to hum with memory. Every gaze in the golden hall fell lower, heavy with shame. The laughter that once mocked her had vanished, leaving only the weight of silence. The perfume of lavender clung to the air, sharp, almost bitter now. Clara's chest rose and fell, her calm breath steady against the tension. She turned her eyes back to the trembling receptionist. "You chose pride over kindness," she said, her voice soft but merciless. "And in doing so, you disgraced the very place you claimed to protect." The receptionist's throat tightened, her hands twisting helplessly at her sides. The rustle of robes from the guests filled the space like whispers of guilt. Ethan shifted slightly, his presence towering, his silence a shield for Clara's fire. The chandeliers above glimmered faintly, their crystals trembling as if caught in her storm. Clara's final words cut through the hall like a blade. This sanctuary will no longer bend to arrogance. It will bow only to respect. Asterisk. The declaration settled over the hall like a crown of iron. No one dared to lift their head. The marble beneath their feet seemed colder, harder, as if rejecting their comfort. The guests fidgeted, their silken robes whispering guilt with every movement. The receptionist's knees quivered, her polished smile broken into shards of fear. Clara's gaze did not waver. Her presence filled the spa more completely than the golden light or the fragrant air. The fountain's steady rhythm became the only sound, each drop marking her authority. Ethan stepped closer, his shadow falling long beside hers. He spoke at last, his tone low but carrying like thunder. "You all know her now, and you will never forget." The guests shifted again, unease rippling through the room like a wave. Clara's lips parted, her voice steady, final. This place is mine, and today it is reborn. Asterisk, the words echoed, heavy and final. Rolling through the golden chamber like a tide, no one moved. No one breathed too loudly. The chandeliers above flickered, scattering fragments of light across faces pale with unease. Clara's sandals clicked softly as she stepped away from Ethan's side. Each footfall struck the marble like a gavel delivering judgment. Her eyes swept across the bowed heads, sharp, unrelenting. "You came here seeking luxury," she said, her voice unwavering. "But what you will find here now is truth." The perfume in the air no longer sweetened the silence, it thickened it. The receptionist's chest rose in shallow, uneven breaths, her pride dissolved. The attendants stood rigid, their gloved hands clenched tightly at their sides. Clara stopped at the center of the hall, framed by gold and shadow. This spa belongs not to arrogance, but to grace. Her words settled into the marble itself. A vow carved in sound. Asterisk, the vow lingered, heavy as stone, until the very air seemed to bow. Guests lowered their heads further, robes rustling like leaves in a storm. The fountain's trickles sounded louder, echoing her command through the silence. Clara stood unmoving, her simple cotton dress flowing gently around her legs. It was plain, yet it carried more authority than all their jewels combined. The receptionist's lips trembled, her hands pressed tightly against her chest. Her voice cracked as she whispered, "Mrs. Gray, what will you have us do?" Every head lifted slightly, curiosity and fear tangled together. Clara's eyes burned with a quiet fire. Steady and calm, "You will listen," she said. "You will learn, and you will never again mistake humility for weakness." Her words struck with the weight of a promise, undeniable and sharp. Ethan's gaze swept the hall once more, making sure the lesson was carved into every soul. The golden walls, once mocking, now stood as witnesses to her power. Asterisk, Clara let the silence stretch, her words sinking deep into every corner of the room. The lavender and jasmine no longer masked the air. They carried her presence, thick and unshakable. The guests shifted uneasily, their silks brushing together like whispers of regret. No one dared to raise their eyes fully to her. The receptionist's shoulders slumped, her polished posture broken. Clara's gaze lingered on her. "Cool and deliberate, you measured me by what I wore," she said. "You weighed me against your shallow idea of worth." Her voice rose, steady, commanding. "But I am the measure here." The words hit like a hammer against glass, sharp, final. Ethan's stance beside her was silent power, his pride in her shining through his calm eyes. The fountain's rhythm matched the beating of hearts in the golden hall, fast and unsteady. Clara lifted her chin higher, her voice ringing out like a bell. "This spa has a soul, and today I remind you whose soul it is." Her declaration rippled through the chamber, vibrating against the marble. Echoing in the silence, guests swallowed hard, their throats dry, their robes suddenly heavy. The chandeliers glowed brighter, scattering shards of gold across faces drained of pride. The receptionist's eyes glossed with panic. Her hands clutched uselessly at her clipboard, still lying abandoned on the floor. The attendants shifted their weight, guilt etched in every line of their rigid posture. Clara did not move. Her stillness was more powerful than any outburst. Her voice, calm but unyielding, filled the hall again. This spa will no longer serve vanity. It will serve respect. It will serve dignity. Each word rang like a verdict, each pause cutting deeper than anger. Ethan's hand brushed her shoulder lightly, steadying her without breaking the storm she carried. The perfume of lavender no longer overpowered her senses, it carried her resolve forward. The golden walls themselves seemed to lean in, as if listening to their true owner at last. Asterisk, the golden walls seemed to shimmer, no longer symbols of arrogance, but vessels of truth. Clara let her eyes sweep across the bowed heads. Holding them in her quiet command, her voice was low. Yet it filled every corner. You will remember this day each time you walk through these doors. The guests shifted, their silks sighing like restless air. Shame clung to them. Thicker than perfume, the receptionist's face had lost all color. Her once perfect posture bent under the weight of fear. Clara did not soften. This spa will breathe kindness again. Her words struck with the force of a vow. The marble will not mock. The fragrance will not deceive. The light will not blind. Her tone sharpened, steady as a blade, and no guest, whether clothed in silk or cotton, will ever feel small. Within these walls again, the fountain trickled louder. As if marking her decree in water, Ethan's steady presence beside her sealed the truth and challenged. Unquestionable, the silence that followed was not resistance, it was surrender. Clara let the silence linger. Her final words etched deep into every corner of the spa. The air was no longer heavy with arrogance, but with reverence. Guests slowly lifted their eyes, only to bow their heads again in quiet respect. The receptionist bent low, her voice shaking. Mrs. Gray, we will honor this place as you have spoken. Clara gave a single nod, firm and unyielding. Ethan's hand rested gently at her back, his pride unspoken yet undeniable together. They turned toward the golden doors. The marble floor no longer mocked her steps, echoed them like a hymn. The fragrance of lavender followed her out, no longer sharp, but soothing once more as the doors closed behind her. The spa was left in stillness, a sanctuary reborn, and every soul who remained within its walls carried the weight of a truth they would never forget.